Stay? Go? Don't know? Where will you call home in retirement? Learn why many more boomers are choosing to go and where they're going to in order to improve retirement satisfaction. That and more on today's Retire Smarter show.
It's another edition of Retire Smarter. Walter Storholt here with you alongside Kevin Kroski, President, Wealth Advisor at True Wealth Design. Find us online at truewealthdesign.com. Kevin, good to be with you once again. Looking forward to continuing our series on what retirees want. Today we're talking about what they want in a home. But before all of that, what's going on in your world?
Yeah, everything's great. A little bit of market volatility that we're experiencing right now, which is normal, even though we really haven't had it for a while. So maybe a brief PSA. Just I think it's good to remember that this volatility, or kind of the more wild ups and downs, tends to be it's a feature, not necessarily a bug of markets. It's the same reason why you can expect outsized returns from stocks compared to safer assets, less volatile assets like bonds. Though it's nobody really likes the downside volatility. We don't mind it when stocks go to the upside.
Yeah, volatility is great when it's up.
Yeah, so it depends on the direction, but nonetheless, this is nothing abnormal. I'm not making a prediction or anything here, but again, volatility, it does happen. It's just it hasn't happened for quite some time. Literally for the last decade, really since 2000, after 2009 financial crisis, the market has been quite calm, more than what has been normal. So it's just keep in mind a 5% decline occurs about 3 times a year. 10% decline, which is pretty much on par with what we reached so far year to date, occurs about once a year, and a 20% decline occurs about once every 6 years. And though we got close a couple times, certainly when the world shut down in March of 20. We got all those 3 in just a matter of a couple of weeks. But prior to that, we haven't seen a 20% decline since 2009. So I'm not saying that that's going to happen and it's inevitable. It is inevitable at some point. It's going to happen. It's just a feature of the markets and how they work. But volatility, like we've had more recently, is nothing to panic about. That's really the message I want people to take away.
Very good. Helpful to get that information. If you've got any questions about some of the volatility that's been happening lately as it relates to your plan, and if you've listened to the show for a while, or maybe you're a new listener and you're wondering, how can I get help navigating through all those things? Again, you can always reach out by calling 855-TWD-PLAN or schedule a time to meet with an experienced advisor on the team by clicking the Are We Right For You button on truewealthdesign.com. Links and contact info in the description of today's show. Well, Kevin, we are in the midst of a series breaking down the book, What Retirees Want. We've covered a lot of different angles, from talking about the relationship aspects in retirement to, working in retirement, the second careers that some people embark on, as well as an overview of the book and kind of what to expect. If anybody hasn't listened to those previous episodes, certainly invite you, go back to episode 88 where we began this series, and you kind of get caught up a little bit on what we've talked about so far. But today we turn our attention to what retirees want in a home, and looking forward to today's discussion with you.
Yeah, no, absolutely. When you think about home, obviously we spend a lot of time there, and there's different attributes of the home as we age that could become more or less attractive. For instance, as we get older, declining health may make it more difficult to manage the household. It may be more difficult if you're staying in that same home that you're currently in, and maybe have been for many years. It may be difficult to stay socially engaged, as you age in place. Depending on your neighborhood, it could be quite isolating. It could be more reliant upon your family to kind of get there and help you out in that regard. You're just seeing a lot of change in terms of people's preferences for homes in general, particularly as they're aging. You are seeing more and more people, renting, which you really didn't see before. The idea of home ownership is almost an American value, but you are seeing people kind of simplify in a sense that they don't have that responsibility, and they're shedding it and moving towards a more an easier lifestyle, if you will, could be in a retirement community or not. And people certainly are moving more towards retirement communities, whether they be more active retirement communities or even maybe at a later age, those continuing care retirement communities. So I thought we would get into all that today. I do see this as an area that, one, we're dealing with a lot already for clients that we serve. We have many clients where we have the sort of home transition earmarked in their financial plan, and maybe 2 home transitions earmarked in their financial plan. We'll talk more about that. But first, let me set the stage with just a short passage from the book. And the book reads, "We've learned that many retirees relocate twice. First, to a place desirable for lifestyle, climate, or proximity to family. Later in life, they're far more likely to move to someplace offering needed support and care, often assisted living facilities, close to family care, or moving in with family. Those who choose to stay in their pre-retirement homes just make the latter move, if any. Home renovations follow a parallel pattern. Early in retirement, the objective is to make more of a dream home, entertainment, exercise room, home office, gourmet kitchen. Later on, renovations accommodate declining mobility or other health conditions and make the home a safer and more functional place to age." So I'm curious, Walt, the last episode we spoke about your folks and how they're kind of contemplating retirement and where they're living and what have you. Has any of this come up for them through those discussions that they've shared with you?
I'd say it's more for them is location, not so much style of home. I haven't heard their preferences too much on like the 2-story versus 1-story debate and those kinds of things. Definitely have seen that more with my grandparents, though, throughout the years as they've transitioned. They recently, it was either right before or at the beginning of the pandemic, redid their downstairs bathroom, but the big aha of it, although it's beautifully done, was making it more mobility friendly. And now they've had a lot of, they've had to invest in a ramp for my grandmother after she hurt her neck during the pandemic when she fell. And they put in one of those ramp styles that takes you up and down. That was a big renovation cost, essentially. Luckily, the wiring had already been there from, I guess, the previous owner many, many years before had a ramp in there. So at least that saved a little bit on the cost of having to get that installed. Of course, Grandma's like, now I'm not using that, and I don't care if I have a broken neck. I'm walking up and down the stairs on my own. See the previous episode about attitude and positive mindset. My grandmother embodies that to a T. But so I've seen definitely with my grandparents more of that conversation of they very heavily considered moving and getting a first-story place, but they decided they loved the condo so much and the view, and they just loved their home so much. They're dealing with the mobility challenges that it presents, but they definitely have made choices to try and stay there by tweaking certain things. But you can definitely see it being a challenge, and one day it may be the thing that forces them to have to get out of there. So those are tough conversations. They're not as much fun when you transition from those renovations and those things are taken care of being those exciting, fun things of how to make the place better for entertainment and all those kinds of things to the more functional elements.
I think your folks and your grandparents probably provide a good example of those 2 decisions that were mentioned in the book. The first is really more about that desirable place for lifestyle, climate, and things like that. And then later on, it's more about, finding that support and care and making the home more amenable to aging in place, or, if you're going to get out of the home, going somewhere else where you can do that. So that's probably a pretty good juxtaposition and a nice example we just happen to fall into there. If we dig into some of the numbers as far as, what people are doing, what boomers are doing, and even, kind of older retirees and boomers, the silent generation, boomers, it's about 50-50 that they plan to age in place. So, kind of the stay, go, or the book actually talks about finding roommates too, which, I guess it's a kind of a combination of like Golden Girls meets Friends, the television shows.
Interesting. Uh-huh.
I haven't seen it, but they talk about, some examples in larger cities like New York and what have you. But kind of the stay and go certainly is a prevalent conversation with all retirees. Maybe not if they do decide to kind of stay, maybe it's going to be later on that, more of the go conversation is going to come up, but it's dynamic. And the whole idea of staying, the prior generation definitely held on to that. I think we can all think of, maybe our parents or grandparents that maybe were a little bit obstinate about, getting help, whether it was coming into the home as they were aging and really couldn't maintain the household themselves, and were almost stubbornly independent and wanted to hold on to that independence. That silent generation, 69% said that they, wanted to stay and age in place. Candidly, I think that strikes me as being low. Most people that I've encountered, almost all people, I think, wanted to go ahead and stay in place. It was really kind of the few that would look to do something different. It was a home. It just wasn't a house to them, and independence and all kinds of other emotional attachments to it. But today they're saying, the book authors with the research are saying that it's really kind of a coin flip of whether the boomers want to stay at home and age in place. And some of the reasons why they say that they may want to stay is hassle was one that was cited. Nobody wants to move. Nobody likes to move. Let's put it that way. Nobody likes to move. The process of moving, that transition. We always talk about transitions evoking stress. Well, the act of moving is probably all distress or bad stress. But hey, you can pay people to do a lot of things these days. So there you go. But I would also call that inertia. I can think of several clients that have been saying that they're going to move. They're going to start working through the house, going through their basements that we have in Ohio and don't have in Florida, and just getting the house ready to sell. Well, they've been getting the house ready to sell now for 5, maybe even 10 years. And, there's obviously some other stuff that's going on there, but inertia, I think, is a very, very...
Getting the house ready to sell has definitely been a steady state for my folks for many years. It's finally actually happening, but it's been... I think that statement has been said on and off for about 10 years now.
Yeah, I think there's definitely a business opportunity if somebody's serious about it, just to kind of bring that objective, unemotional execution to doing it. But I think inertia is huge for sure. Yeah, sure, it's a hassle, no doubt, but you can get over that and pay movers and what have you. It's the inertia. It's going through all the stuff, shedding the memories, whatever the case may be. I also think a big part of it is there's still a big portion of the population that just don't know what other options are out there, or think that they know, but it just ain't so. They think that, hey, well, I don't want to go to a retirement community because it's just going to be all old grumpy people there, or I don't want to go to that continuing care retirement community. It's just going to feel like, I'm going there to die, or whatever sort of negative stereotypical saying that maybe you can come up with. But it's certainly changing. There's a lot of different options that are out there today. Under the go category, if we kind of move away from the stay, as we've talked about, and is going to be no surprise, certainly people are going towards more of the Sun Belt, the warmer climates. They are going to retirement communities more so today in an ever increasing rate. They're certainly moving closer to family too. So some examples, Walt, I'm sure you've heard of the Villages down in Florida. Yes. It's kind of it's the stereotypical retirement community on the East Coast. Sun City is the one that kind of comes to mind out on the West Coast, or I guess it's not the coast, but out in Arizona. I would call these active adult communities. There's just a big segment of the population that are in that space. You have a lot of activities. Social engagement is made a lot easier, whether it's, you're going out golfing with friends, going out for lunch, whatever sort of activities you may be interested in. Pickleball is like all the rage these days, it seems, in these active adult communities, and also skewing younger. But you name it, if you go to a place where a lot of people have this time affluence and have some financial resources and security, and you couple them all in this community, it's like college for retirees. It can be pretty cool. We see that a lot, obviously, here in Florida. The community that my family and I are in is not that, intentionally. We have young kids. We are in, kind of the best public school, or one of the best public school districts in Southwest Florida down here, by design. And so we have a more of a mix of families that are here year round. But the retirees that often choose to be in here, as I talk with them, it's interesting. They chose to be here. They want to stay active, but they just don't want to be around all retirees. They want to stay around more of a mix of people and kids. And then you definitely hear some that maybe regret their buying decision and do want to move towards a more retirement-based community without kids. But point being, there's all kinds of strokes for different folks. And I think just educating yourself on what options are out there, and it doesn't mean that you have to relocate to a different state or move to a Sunbelt state or something like that, but what's available in your local community. I can think in Northeast Ohio, there seemed to be like a real demand, but maybe not much of a supply of these sort of retirement communities. But you see that's continuing to start to change, where all these things that are important, to us in general, Maslow's hierarchy of needs, a lot of those communities can make these things easier. Not only do you have your home, but you have, those social relationships. You can get around. The mobility can be easier. They can bring things to you or take you there. And also just maybe even get engaged in some different purposeful activities to kind of touch on the higher order pyramid sort of needs that we have. But this is an area that I definitely see more and more change happening ahead. I think it's just us kind of slowly evolving and moving as kids, as our children become more bound to go ahead and pursue certain work or what have you. Then you're seeing more retired people follow their children to new locales as well. We'll see what COVID, lasting effects may happen from that. If we're going to be able to work from anywhere, and maybe we see a reverse of that. I'm skeptical, but time will tell. But I guess the overriding thing that I would say here is really just, rather than just kind of stay at the de facto, well, yeah, we've been here for 20 years and we're going to stay put or something of the sort, at least get educated, go online, search, retirement community, search CCRC, see what's available in your area or other areas. Go out and visit some of them. It's if you got this time affluence on your hand in retirement, you don't have to work and you're looking, hey, how can I fill my day? Go get educated. See what's out there. Maybe there's going to be something that you weren't aware of that you're going to like more than what you're currently doing, which could be awesome. And even if not, at least you're going to make a more informed decision overall. So while all of these kind of getting educated, I think makes sense, a couple of things that I'll throw out there to keep in mind that are maybe, I don't want to say a mistake, but I've seen some people make decisions, they regretted them and then have undone them, which moving costs money. So if you can avoid a decision that you're going to reverse, it's probably good. Most people think about downsizing when they get in retirement. And what the study shows from the book is that 50% of people, when they do go and move from the home that they've been in while they were working, do in fact downsize. About 20% stay the same, but maybe a surprising number, 30% actually upsize. And when I think of this, I don't know what our client statistics are or anything like that, but I can think of at least a handful of cases where people have downsized. They've regretted the decision, and then they either remodeled to add on to have some more space or actually moved because they were just unhappy. And it could be, the often cited reason is that they didn't have room for the family when they came to visit. They didn't have the space that they wanted to go ahead and host holiday meals and things of the like. I've never heard anybody say it, but I wouldn't be surprised if there's also some kind of social status. Maybe, there was just a bit of a difference in kind of where they moved to that wasn't part of their identity and their ego, not in the bad sense, but in the literal sense. But I've seen that happen a handful of times where, if they could have just stayed where they were, they probably would have, because they definitely moved and or remodeled and spent a lot of money in doing so.
Interesting to hear those different decisions and kind of directions that people choose. I'm sure that's maybe, would this be one of the more, I don't know, I guess the more fun decisions that you get to kind of be a part of in the planning process? Because there's so much energy and emotion wrapped up into the home. I imagine it's kind of fun to walk people through all these different possibilities and whatnot.
Oh, for sure. I can think of some other cases where literally, the people live below their means, but when we started talking about what was possible, and not that they were unhappy, but they were content. Let's put it that way. And contentment's a great thing and a great place to be. But when we showed them what was possible, whether it was upsizing their home or having a second home or just even kind of spending a lot more money on travel and staying in a location for an extended period of time, we have several cases like that where people have been able to do those things that they maybe either didn't think were possible or didn't even consider before we kind of nudged them to do so. So yeah, I mean that's definitely kind of the good warm fuzzy when you can see people taking action and really get more out of life, more satisfaction out of life, and maybe stretch beyond what they thought was possible or what they knew before. Those are those cases where you come out of the meeting room with just a big grin on your face, and you want to feel like you're pounding your chest like super financial planner. So those are good days for sure. I do want to dive into the CCRCs a little bit more. So it's, again, CCRC, Continuing Care Retirement Community. These are often places where people will go in and it's independent living, but then you can progress up to assisted living. Maybe there's a memory care unit all the way up to a nursing home as well. And you're seeing more and more and more of these. We have about a handful of clients that are in them currently, and we have at least another handful that have a future move into one of them planned. And let me jump back to the book here for a moment and give a little read and perspective on it. But Continuing Care Retirement Communities, or CCRCs, also called life plan communities, provide for independent retirement living with home services and meal plans, plus stages of needed care. So the assisted living, nursing home, memory care, as well as independent living. Many retirees choose to move into CCRCs in advance of needing regular care. You are seeing kind of the average age, skew a little bit younger as well. The Moorings Park CCRC in Naples, Florida, which is not too far down the road from where I'm located, of the roughly 1,000 residents, about 700 are in independent living, 200 in assisted living, and 100 in long-term care. The restaurant is like a fine dining establishment. Their clubhouse, like a private one you wish you'd belong to. Their health club, equal to any I've seen. It's a top-notch community all around, and young or old, you probably want to live there. And that's true. I've been there as a tour. This is a higher end one, and there's plenty that are nice that are not higher end one like that, but it's really cool. It makes life easier, and you can definitely enjoy it. One other thing that I'll go on, one more paragraph that I thought was pretty unique, and we'll see if we see more of this, but colleges have begun taking advantage of the real estate and trusted brands and are also building CCRCs for younger and more active retirees, offering lifelong learning opportunities and access to campus facilities and events. For example, Legacy Point is located on the campus of the University of Central Florida, where it fosters intergenerational connections in daily life. At Arizona State University, Mirabella at ASU is a 20-story, $250 million life plan community for over 300 residents. So I hadn't heard of these communities on college campuses, but one, it appeals to me. I think it could be, a cool college town, a lot of opportunity to stay active and engaged and learn and grow and have a myriad of opportunities to mingle with people of different life stages. But I bring it up really for the point that I think this is really going to continue to evolve. I think CCRCs are going to continue to grow, and you're going to see more and more people abandoning their homes and opting for some sort of retirement community. Maybe it's going to be kind of that active community like the villages earlier in retirement, and then moving more towards continuing care type community as they age. I think you've certainly been seeing that over the last 20 years, but I think as those markets continue to develop and as we live longer and our kids are more mobile and we continue to become more affluent and can afford these things, I think it's only going to become even more prevalent, and we're probably going to have many more choices as well.
Interesting to see how that will shift over time. And yeah, it's like, I guess as people have gotten to know a little bit more of what people liked about their homes, but where the deficiencies were, they've tried to kind of marry those two different things together to create these communities, and seems like a great fit for a lot of people. I view that as a good thing, because maybe it helps that conversation and that worry of having to transition out of the home be less of a traumatic event for people, which it has been in the past for a lot of families. It's not a fun thing to go through when somebody really doesn't want to leave their home.
Yeah, I think if you're proactive about it, if you're getting educated on the options that are out there, there's definitely going to be more and more options available for differing, whatever your choice is. So again, I think just getting over the inertia is probably just step one. Just trying to take a pragmatic approach here, see what options are out there, search Google, go out, CCRC, active retirement community near me, whatever sort of, logical search term you can come up with. You can just start poking around. Certainly people's favorite hobby these days are to look at Zillow.com or Realtor.com and check out your neighbor's homes or your home and what it's worth and what's available and what's out there. But all those things, you have time, be intentional about it, think what's out there, go visit some of these CCRCs, go visit some of the active retirement communities. Keep in mind, all these things that we've been talking about over the last several episodes about what really makes that retirement satisfaction. It's health, it's financial security, it's having loving relationships with your family and friends, having a purpose. Again, these community-based environments can go ahead and make a lot of those easier, certainly at a cost, but there's plenty of those CCRCs that are around us here in Florida that don't have entrance fees. They may just have like a monthly service fee, and they may just have like a pay-go system if you do need those higher levels of healthcare. On the other hand, you have those places like the Moorings that I mentioned, or Laurel Lake in Northeast Ohio, that are really kind of, all-inclusive facilities, both from a meal standpoint as well as from a life care component. And you have options in between too. So as with anything, get educated, overcome inertia, start moving the ball forward, think about what you like, what you don't like. Talk with your spouse if you're married about it, and just get informed and make an educated decision. What you may make today may be different down the road, but if you're equipped and knowledgeable about what options are out there, you're probably going to make a better decision overall.
Very good. Well, if you have questions about something we've talked about today, about your financial plan, about all these different elements, it gets all wrapped into the comprehensive planning that the team does at True Wealth Design. Kevin and the great staff that he has on hand, a full team of certified financial planners to help guide you through the decision-making process and the planning process. You can go to truewealthdesign.com, click the Are We Right For You button to schedule a 15-minute call with an experienced advisor on the team, or you can call 855-TWD-PLAN if you prefer to get in touch the phone method, 855-893-7526. And as always, the contact info is in the description of today's show. Kevin, thanks for the help and the guidance on the program today. Enjoyed it, and we'll look forward to continuing our series next time around.
Actually, Walt, that is the end of the series.
That's the end of the series?
Yes.
Oh, my gosh. Oh, well, there it is. Okay.
Yeah, I thought 4 episodes would be plenty, but
perfect.
I guess to wet the whistle. Actually, we have a guest coming up for the next 2, so at least it's currently scheduled, pending any in case scheduling conflicts that may arise. But Dr. Michael Finca, who does a lot of research on retirement satisfaction, retirement spending, somewhat similar to what we just went through in the book, but I think will bring a different perspective to many key parts, and who's also very entertaining and engaging. I've known him for about a decade, but he's agreed to come on to the podcast. So I'm quite confident that the listeners are going to get a lot out of the next 2 episodes. Certainly we'll harken back to some of the things that we talked about over the last few with the What Retirees Want book, but I think he'll really be able to bring some additional considerations to the conversation, and I'm really looking forward to it.
Perfect. Well, I can't wait. Guest will be joining us on the next edition, again, pending something popping up between now and then, but plan for a guest interview next time around on Retire Smarter. Well, there we go. Thanks for everybody for listening. Don't forget you can subscribe to the show on your favorite apps. We're on Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, and everywhere else you can find and listen to podcast programming. And as always, online you can find the full library and more information at truewealthdesign.com. We'll see everybody next time, right back here on Retire Smarter.
Information provided is for informational purposes only and does not constitute investment, tax, or legal advice. Information is obtained from sources that are deemed to be reliable, but their accurateness and completeness cannot be guaranteed. All performance reference is historical and not an indication of future results. Benchmark indices are hypothetical and do not include any investment fees.